They dubbed her Torque Girl, the phantom in coveralls who haunted the space between the toolbox and the fuel shed. She answered to no one, spoke sparingly, and seemed to materialize only when a boat sputtered, a propeller stalled, or a weapon mount groaned. The SEAL strode past her without a second glance, until one stormy night when an engine sputtered, the radio screeched, and a quiet crisis began to unfold. That's when the reserved mechanic stretched to adjust a sagging overhead hoist. Her shirt lifted, and every eye in the hangar caught the ink she'd kept hidden. The sharp, geometric outline of a trident, undeniable, etched with precision. Later, they claimed they'd always respected her, their voices loud with guilt masked as pride during debriefs and over drinks. But the raw truth was darker. They hadn't truly seen her until that moment when she became impossible to ignore. Once you witness a forgotten shadow rescue a doomed mission with a steady hand and a quiet word, her presence lingers forever. From which city are you tuning into The Heart Listens today? Share it in the comments below. I cherish seeing our global family grow. If tales of unsung heroes and earned respect resonate with you, hit that subscribe button and like this video for more stories that touch the soul. The hangar roof groaned under the onshore wind, a sound like chattering teeth. Steel beams arched overhead, slick with salt. Below, 3 ribs rested in their cradles, dark hulls, wide grins, twin outboards gleaming under the harsh fluorescence. The hum of compressors, the thud of boots, the clank of aluminum ladders filled the air. It was mission night rhythm, sharp, efficient, brimming with confidence. The kind of confidence that assumes the world yields to a hard stare. Amid it all, El Consincade, logistics tech and civilian contractor, moved through a tight corridor between a pallet of sonar buoys and a crate of spare propellers. Grease stained her nails. Salt faded her sleeves to a ghostly pale. She wore hearing protection loose around her neck, her expression a mask that might pass for indifference. It wasn't. Indifferent minds don't catalog, count, and cross-check with her precision. Her thoughts ticked like a clock. Fuel lines checked. Clamps torqued at 6 millimeters, secured. Safety lanyards taped, done. Spare plugs bagged with silica ready. Bilge pumps tested, green. Nav lights, clear. Yo, Torque Girl. Petty Officer Rizzo leaned over his ribs gunnel, waving an empty coffee mug. Think you can juice this Mercury V with caffeine? We need her humming. Elle didn't look up. Pour it in the intake, and you'll get a purr, right before a $30,000 paperweight. A few snickers followed. Chief Weber, with his broad shoulders and storm-gray beard, tossed a glance her way. Watch it, Rizzo. Last time you messed up, she fixed it with a zip tie and a miracle. Not a miracle, Elle said, sliding under the transom with a socket wrench. A clove hitch and bad decisions. See, witchcraft, Rizzo grinned. She speaks knots. She did knots, engine harmonics, and the way men mask fear with noise. But none of that mattered when you're treated like part of the scenery. A clipboard slapped down beside her boots. Lieutenant Knox, mission lead, stared at the manifest, his jaw perpetually tight. Fuel load adjusted for extended range, he said. Adding 2 extra jerry cans per boat. We launch in 90. Elle rolled out from under the engine and met his gaze briefly, long enough to read the exhaustion etched there. Extra weight shifts the trim. Change trim alters handling on takeoff. You'll want the bow light in this swell. Knox frowned. We're not here to debate. I'm not debating, Elle replied, standing and wiping salt from her hands. I'm warning you. The ocean doesn't care about your schedule. Chief Weber hid a smirk behind his hand. Knox didn't. He tapped the paper. Make it happen. The oldest command in the book. She did. She redistributed weight, slid a crate of medical supplies forward, swapped a heavy battery for 2 lighter ones, and lowered ammo cans. Her fingertips traced fuel hoses, sensing for the slightest hint of a flaw that could spiral into disaster. She listened to the Engine's song, hearing beneath the sheen of new parts the wear of machines pushed too hard. The hangar felt it too. Somewhere in its framework, a cable loosened, ticking with quiet protest. On the whiteboard, Tonight's plan took shape in ink. Surf launch at 23:10. Run low and fast north for 9 miles. Swing west into a submerged river delta. Power down. Drift. Insert. Call signs scribbled hastily. A cheap pen bled through a tide chart. It looked orderly enough to feel fated. Sometimes fate is just a lack of foresight. She caught the first sign in the fuel, a faint, off-key scent. The RHIB fuel locker held 6 jerry cans, for along the bulkhead, 2 strapped to the deck. She popped the caps and leaned in, eyes closed. Can 1, clean gas, crisp with 100 launches. Can 2, same. Can 3, a whisper of varnish. Cheap port fuel. She'd seen worse. Can 4, her brow furrowed. Not varnish. Something thinner, like solvent masquerading as gasoline. She dipped a gloved finger, rubbed it, felt the cooling sting. Acetone, she guessed. A trace, not a flood. Enough to soften gaskets, erode O-rings, invite chaos at the worst moment. Someone had tampered with it. She set the can down, throat tight, and scanned the hangar. Men in black tops and tan plate carriers moved with purpose, radios murmuring, laughs cutting like blades. At the far end, 2 civilian contractors lounged, one unfamiliar, one she knew. His name didn't matter. His habit did. He cut corners when no one watched. "Chief," she called. Weber approached, his expression shifting from occupied to alert when he saw her face. "Talk." She kept her voice low. "Adulterated fuel in Can 4. Smells like acetone or MEK. Subtle but malicious." Weber's eyes narrowed. "Certain." Her look answered for her. "Positive. Swap it with storage. I'll check the rest." He nodded. "Do it discreetly. No spooking the team." She understood. Missions unravel from 1,000 small fears. L worked faster. She moved the suspect can to the hazmat cage, inspected the others, pulled 2 fresh ones from storage, and triple-checked them. Each lift burned her shoulder with a familiar ache, a reminder she wasn't just a mechanic. She silenced it. "Torque girl." Rizzo called from 2nd RHIB. "Bless these pumps yet? I want Grace at full throttle." "You get Grace at idle," she said, kneeling to open a pump cover. "At full throttle, you get physics, survival, and a prayer." Knox marched past, phone to his ear, voice taut. "Copy. Last intel 2 hours ago. Windows still open. If the gate lifts, we ride the current in. If not, we adapt. No scrub. Some fisherman saw a truck, so what? Out." He pocketed the phone and froze. "Who moved this crate forward?" he demanded, pointing at the med box Elle had shifted. "I did," she said. "We have load plans for a reason." "We also have waves," Elle countered, nodding at the bow. "You wanted a light nose in the first set. You've got it. You're welcome." Weber's almost smile returned. Knox's jaw twitched. He lifted the crate, shifted it back 3 inches, and let it drop, territorial. She noted his need for control. The wind sharpened. Outside, the ocean flexed its muscles. The tide crept up the chart. Elle tuned out the voices, tuning into the hangar's whispers, a belt-soft complaint, a throttle cable's hum, a bulkhead's faint groan begging for tightening. She spotted movement. The corner-cutting contractor slipped toward the fuel locker, phone stowed, moving like a sleepwalker. She stepped into his path, offering a smile too warm to trust. "Need help?" Just checking the strapping," he mumbled. "Safety's my job," she said, lifting a strap with her boot, letting the ratchet click. "They'll hold." He nodded, lingering a beat too long before slinking off, trying too hard to look aimless. She watched him go, the math shifting. Solvent doesn't pour itself. Men don't drift toward fuel cans without intent. Bad fuel at night isn't chance. She found Weber at the workbench, reviewing call signs. She tapped the page once, slid a spare radio battery toward him with 2 fingers, eyes open, voice silent, mind sharp. He understood. A horn blared outside. The forklift rumbled in, blue lights stuttering, delivering last-minute gear. The strap snagged. The pallet lurched once, twice. Too fast. Elle lunged, grabbing the strap with both hands, boots sliding on salt, shoulders screaming. The load teetered on the edge of gravity, then settled inch by inch. "Hey," Knox barked. She didn't answer. She was elsewhere, counting the pain. She wound the strap twice, half-hitched it to a cleat, and exhaled. Voices rose in awe and jest. She steadied her hands and stepped back. Rizzo appeared with a grin and a coffee cup. "For the save," he offered. "I don't drink before launches," she murmured. "You're not launching," he teased. She met his eyes, letting silence speak. He blinked, grin faltering, then shrugged it off with a shoulder clap, an apology for something not yet done. A gust slammed the bay doors, rattling them meanly. Outside, the surf would stack rough between the piers. Elle visualized the run, the first 3 sets, throttle finesse, the stern digging, Knox overcorrecting at the cross chop. She should have left years ago, but an ache lingered, penance that felt like purpose, rooted in her shoulders' click, a memory of cold water, a steel ladder, and a scream under helicopter blades. 5 minutes to pre-brief. Knox called out. Helmets went on, voices deepened, jokes vanished. The hangar tensed like a fist. Elle wiped her hands on a rag, leaned over an outboard, and tapped the diagnostic port. Green, green, amber. Sensor lag, on throttle position. She traced a harness, found a connector barely seated, and clicked it firm. The boat seemed to exhale. The pre-brief was brisk and intense. Knox marked ingress with a stabbing pen, speaking of timing like a deity to appease. If the gate lifts, we ride. If not, we force. Rules of engagement, armed, their targets. Radio targets. Block the causeway, targets. Clear. Clear. The room echoed. Elle stood at the back by the battery cart, arms crossed, jaw firm. She was the reason they'd get there. The brief ended. Men grabbed talismans, photos, rubber bands, tape on scopes. Weber paused beside her, glancing at the fuel locker, then back. She nodded. He touched his chest twice. Understood. The ocean deepened its growl. She almost believed this was routine, another launch in a long chain, until the undercurrent hit. Someone wanted these boats to fail, choking in the surf. She didn't know why. She didn't need to. Her job was to keep the engines alive. A deckhand shouted from the pier. Surf's hammering. South gaps open. Copy, Weber yelled back. We like a challenge. Elle rolled her eyes, shouldering a fuel line. Stepping onto the gunnel to thread it, her shoulder ground. The rag slipped. She turned, and the wind lifted her shirt up her spine. Rizzo mid-sip froze. The mug fell, shattering like a shot. The hangar flinched. It wasn't her skin or muscle, it was the ink. A fine-lined, old-school Trident, anchored by an eagle and a flinty skull, stripped of bravado, subtle under a shirt, commanding at a glance if you knew its weight. The silence crashed down. Knox's mouth gaped. Weber's eyes calculated. Diaz swallowed. A ratchet clanged, embarrassingly loud. Elle pulled her shirt down, finished the line, and stepped off like nothing shifted. Rizzo spoke first, soft and formal. Ma'am. Don't, she said. Not now. Knox rallied loudly. No time for games. Weber silenced him with a palm. He looked at Elle like a man who'd underestimated the sea. She exhaled. We've got bad fuel and hazmat. A man playing smart. Surf that'll drown your engines. 90 seconds to decide if you trust me to keep you alive. Rizzo and Diaz straightened. Knox wavered between pride and survival. A wave exploded outside, wind shredding spray. Elle reached for the hoist again, ink peaking. She eyed them like tardy students. Chief, South Gap. Bow high. Quarter left on the second set. Throttle in the trough. Rizzo mid-boat. If your port engine stutters at 4,300, push through. Diaz, if the bilge alarm chirps at the delta, ignore the first 3. Lags fixed. Knox. She held his gaze until he looked away. You dictate to the ocean. Tonight, you listen. Copy. Weber. Copy. Diaz, copy. Rizzo. Loud and clear. Knox, through gritted teeth. Copy. Elle nodded gently. Launch. They moved like a machine reborn, lines off, helmets down, radios set. The forklift beeped respectfully. Ribs slid to the rollers. Weber paused, offering a two-finger salute. Elle tightened a strap. The hangar exhaled as the first boat hit the water, engines barking then smoothing. The second followed, then the third, finding rhythm. The surf pushed, the boats pushed back, united. The contractor watched, eyes calculating. He flinched under Elle's gaze, offering a hollow smile. She passed him, picking up an old radio handset she'd kept for its clarity. She held it, then set it down. Not yet. The ocean held its own secrets. Outside, spray flashed in floodlights. Black boats faded to shadows, then echoes. The wind brought salt, painting the hangar with belonging. "Torque girl." Rizzo's voice crackled warmly over the speaker. "That grace at full throttle, you delivered." Elle smiled once, a fleeting secret. Weber's voice followed, all business. "South Gap as predicted. Good call." Knox stayed silent. Anger or learning? She couldn't tell. She watched the night swallow them, then turned back, grabbing a wrench she didn't need. Her shoulder ached, the ink a brand and a burden. She'd kept it quiet for years, longer than they'd guess. She could again, but maybe she wouldn't have to. The hangar clock ticked. An engine coughed, then steadied. She tilted her head, listening past the wind for the next wrong note. There it was, a hiccup at 4,300 on boat 2. If Rizzo trusted her note, he'd push through. The radio hissed. 4,300 hiccup, ignoring it, feeding the beast. "She's good," Rizzo laughed. "Who taught you that?" Elle gazed at the sea beyond the doorway. "You did," she whispered, unheard. The contractor lingered, eyes darting. "Don't," she said softly, not turning. He fell silent. The mission, the ocean, the night rolled on. A circuit had closed, and the current shifted. Torque Girl was no longer invisible, and even those trained not to look would have to adjust. The ribs returned at dawn, scarred by surf but intact. The hangar glistened with seawater and silence until Weber broke it with a solemn salute. The SEALs followed, no jokes, just respect. Elle stood taller than they'd known, voice soft. "You thought I was just a mechanic. That was the shield. The less you saw, the safer the mission." Rizzo shifted, sheepish. "Guess we missed the heart of it." She almost smiled. "Guess you see it now." Her shirt lifted as she coiled a rope, and this time they looked, understood, and gave space. The Trident was history, sacrifice, proof. Knox stepped up, humility tempering his pride. "You saved us out there. I'll listen next time." "No next time," she said gently. "This cover's blown. Command will move me. But remember, heroes don't always shout. Sometimes they turn a wrench in the dark." She walked into the salt wind, sun igniting her ink for a moment. By the time they blinked, she was gone, leaving a legend they'd once overlooked. Sometimes the greatest strength waits in silence, ready when all else fails. Which city are you watching from today? Share in the comments. If the Heart Listens moved you, like and subscribe for more tales of hidden heroes.